Hi everyone, welcome to Difference Frames the World, a channel that offers you a unique perspective. Please subscribe to the channel so you will not miss our daily uploads. So first up, what did China actually do? The headlines on major news outlets screamed, "China clamps down on rare earths," and other more alarming ones. But this wasn't just a simple export ban. It was far more sophisticated, more like a multi-layered chess move. To protect national security and interests, China has decided, with State Council approval, to restrict the export of certain rare earth-related items, including materials and technologies, under laws like the Export Control Law. It aims to strengthen control over strategic resource technologies, not only rare earth materials themselves. China had announced strict export bans on rare earth elements many times. Still, on October 9th, 2025, the Chinese Commerce Department announced tighter controls on items made outside China containing China's rare earth materials. It is a Chinese version of long-arm jurisdiction, following the suit of the United States. According to the announcement, overseas companies or individuals need a dual-use export license from China's Ministry of Commerce before exporting the following items to a third party. The first category is the items made outside China that contain 0.1% or more of certain Chinese origin materials listed in the announcement. The second category is the products made outside China using Chinese rare earth tech, covering mining, refining, magnet production, and recycling. The third category is any listed items originally from China. The announcement particularly emphasizes strict no-go cases, affirming that licenses will generally not be granted for exports to foreign military users, entities on China's export control restricted list or watch list, including their subsidiaries. It also stresses that if the items could be used for weapons of mass destruction, terrorism, or military purposes, China will not grant the license, which is specially designed for the U.S. military-industrial complex. Of particular note, China states that exports intended for making advanced semiconductors, such as 14 nanometer or smaller chips, 256 plus layer memory chips, or military-grade artificial intelligence, will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. After banning the export of technologies and announcing its long-arm jurisdiction on October 9, 2025, China has controlled the whole supply chain. It isn't about blocking raw rare earth materials and products only, domestic and abroad. It's about controlling the know-how behind the entire supply chain. China's global dominance over rare earths is not due to the raw materials, but rather its technology and processing capabilities. In a separate announcement, it strictly controls technology and related data for mining, refining, metal production, magnet manufacturing, and recycling, such as design drawings and technical parameters. In addition, China targets the know-how behind assembling, testing, maintaining, repairing, or upgrading production lines. And finally, China puts specific emphasis on the tech used to produce samarium cobalt, neodymium iron boron, and cerium magnets that are of strategic importance. China's rules go beyond just direct exports, as controls also cover indirect support and transfers. If an exporter knows that their goods, tech, or services will be used in rare earth activities overseas, they must apply for an export license, even if the goods, tech, or services are not listed in the announcements. Export is broadly defined, referring to all kinds of transfers. It includes not only trade, but also tech sharing via investment, exchanges, training, joint research and development, among others. China makes it clear that exporters must proactively apply for licenses, conduct compliance reviews, and take responsibility for how their exports are used. The country also requires that service providers, whether mentioned or not, such as logistics, finance, and platforms, be barred from supporting illegal exports and must verify whether their clients have the required licenses. According to the regulation, Chinese citizens and organizations are prohibited from providing any substantial assistance to overseas rare earth activities without permission. This move signals a strategic shift for China, from mainly controlling the export of rare earth products to safeguarding core technologies and full supply chain capabilities. China is turning its technical expertise into a long-term strategic advantage, transforming resources into results. So, the immediate question is, why? Why now? For decades, China has been the world's workshop for rare earths. With around 1/4 of the world's known reserves, it has been supplying over 90% of the global market. That came at a massive cost, causing severe environmental damage to its own land and water. So, reason one is sustainability. China's control is a long overdue move to clean up a dirty industry. They're formalizing a cradle-to-grave management system for these critical resources. But reason two is far more strategic: economic upgrading. China no longer wants to be just the dirt-covered miner digging up rocks for the world. It wants to be the master craftsman. By controlling the supply and focusing on high-value products, such as the super strong magnets inside your headphones and EV motors, China wants to capture the lion's share of the profit. It's the difference between selling iron ore and selling a finished precision-engineered car engine. To put it simply, China does not want to sell just eggs anymore. It also wants to make omelets sunny side up. However, the most important reason is the geopolitical leverage. It is especially true when China and the US are having the most critical trade war because of Donald Trump, who desperately vows to beat China with his tariff wars. This policy didn't happen in a vacuum. By controlling these critical inputs, China holds a significant card in the global tech race. It ensures its own industries have first dibs on these materials, potentially slowing down competitors, particularly the United States. Without China's rare earth supply, the US can hardly produce enough weapons and fighter jets to fuel wars worldwide. As said earlier, the tariff war with the US is a catalyst prompting China to announce the policy in early October. When China sneezes, the global rare earth market catches a cold, and in October 2025, China didn't sneeze, but it shouted. It is noteworthy that the policy has not pushed the rare earth prices further higher, as key elements like neodymium, dysprosium, and terbium, the magic behind the world's most powerful permanent magnets, have already seen their prices jump 18 to 25% this year since China tightened the supply. 2 years ago, America's EV maker Tesla announced it was redoubling its efforts to design motors that use little to no rare earths. But in 2025, Tesla still relies on permanent magnets to make its cars. And in the coming years, when the company gradually shifts its focus to robots, rare earths are still crucial for the company's operations. For the U.S. military-industrial complex and chip industry, the situation is tougher. That is why the U.S. wants to embrace Pakistan for rocks that may contain rare earth elements, as we discussed yesterday. Viewers can watch that video for more details. On the political stage, the reaction was just as swift. The European Union intends to raise funding for its Global Gateway initiative to $440 billion by 2027, offering a democratic alternative to China's Belt and Road Initiative. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced it on the same day China imposed new export restrictions on rare earth technologies. The EU is also seeking help from the US to counteract China's control over rare earths. However, the US cannot do without China's raw earth itself. Despite nearly 2 decades of talk about reducing reliance on China, the rest of the world is still playing catch-up. China doesn't just control the mines, it dominates the complex, expensive, and often polluting separation and processing stages. For the heaviest and most critical rare earths, there is almost no substitute for the Chinese supply. The world wanted to diversify, but China's latest move shows just how difficult that really is. China is strategically moving up the value chain. Look at the export data. For the first time in 2025, China is exporting more finished rare earth magnets than raw rare earth ore. It's also shipping out more high-purity processed compounds than ever. This policy, combined with controls on other materials like graphite and tungsten, solidifies China's position at the heart of the clean energy transition worldwide. A recent report from the International Energy Agency warned that if these controls remain in place, the global wind and electric vehicle industries could face a 15 to 20% supply shortfall by 2030. That's a potential break on the world's green ambitions. Chinese officials have been careful in their language. They publicly frame this as a move for sustainable development and responsible resource management. They've promised to continue supplying the global market, just in a more managed way. They've also expressed interest in international collaboration, especially on technologies like recycling and finding alternative materials. But the unspoken message is clear. The era of taking cheap, abundant rare earths from China is over. Instead, China wants to sell its resources at a reasonable price and now screens its clients. It is playing the rare earth card to realize its political and economic ambitions. The West and its allies want to pour money, as we're already seeing, into new mines and processing plants from Australia to Africa to the Americas. They started doing this in 2009, and 6 years have passed since then. They still rely heavily, if not exclusively, on China for rare earth solutions. So, to bring it all together, China's October 2025 rare earth controls are more than a trade policy. They are a defining moment. They are a signal that China is leveraging its resource power to secure its technological future. It isn't just a story about minerals, it's a story about global supply chains, technological leadership, and the delicate balance of economic power in the 21st century.